He was loyal.
Mm-hmm.
He said, take the land.
Yep. If we remember back to Numbers, when the Israelites were first supposed to go to the Promised Land, only Caleb and Joshua stood up against the rest of the nation and said, and even Caleb, he's the guy who said it, Caleb said, we can certainly take this, because he knew that God was with them. And they should have, because when they didn't do that, they wandered for 40 years. And in verse 7 we hear, Caleb was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to explore the land. So that's when he was supposed to, that's when he went in with the 11 other spies to check out the land. And I brought him back a report according to my convictions. But my fellow Israelites who went up with me made the hearts of the people melt in fear. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. And on that day Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance, and that of your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. So that's it exactly, Gary. That's why he got a special allotment. But some of that land was still occupied. But once again, Caleb shows his faith in God in verse 12 when he says, with the Lord helping me, I will drive them out just as he said. And he does actually take over all the land and gets rid of all the Canaanites that were there. And he had the same faith in God at age 85 that he did at age 40, or at age 40.
I think I read that they were the tall people that scared him off, the Anakites.
You're right. Exactly, Gary. Good call. When we get to chapter 15, verses 14 and 15, we'll find out that he got rid of the giants, the ones that the other Israelites, spies, were so afraid of. Verse 13, then Joshua blessed Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and gave him Hebron as his inheritance. Good job, Caleb. And then, of course, we keep going on in Joshua 15 with the allotment for Judah, which is Caleb's tribe. Okay, that's not a big deal. And then in verse 13, we get to the point of Joshua gave to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, a portion in Judah, Hebron. Verse 17, this guy, Othniel, he married Caleb's daughter because he stood up against the giants also. And Othniel is important because he's the first judge that we're going to read about in Judges chapter 3, verses 9 through 11. Now, when we think of judges in the Bible, they're not judges in court like we have judges now. They're just leaders. So after Joshua, we had judges come and lead the Israelites. And after judges, then God gives them kings over his objections.
I couldn't find Eleazar's age, but he dies in Joshua 24. So he's pretty old.
We'll hear about that next week.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. So Caleb's daughter, and her name is, what's her name? Aksha. So Caleb's daughter Aksha comes to Caleb and says, since I've got land in the desert, land in the Negev, which is desert, give me some springs. And he did in verse 19 so that they could raise crops. Not that important, but it's in the Bible, so it's important.
He gives them some springs?
Well, he gives her access to some springs, some water.
Oh, okay.
So she can have water in the desert.
Got it.
So she can raise crops. Let's see, verse 58, why do I have a footnote there? No, that's not important. That is Luz 26. That's not important. Chapter 16, verse 4. So Manasseh and Ephraim, the descendants of Joseph, received their inheritance. So remember, I should say, Joseph was the eldest son of Jacob, so he got a double portion of Jacob's inheritance.
No, Joseph wasn't his oldest.
Well, he's the oldest son of Jacob's favorite wife.
Okay.
Yeah, because Reuben was the oldest. You're right. Good catch. But since Jacob had favorites, that's how Joseph became his favorite son, because he was the son of the favorite wife. And his share of the land was given to his sons Manasseh and Ephraim, who Jacob adopted in Genesis 48:5. Now, what was weird about that adoption? You guys remember?
Cross-handed.
Cross-handed, exactly. Just like what was done before, remember the second son was given, remember Esau and Isaiah, right? I can't remember.
The twins.
Right. The second.
Left to right, right to left.
Yeah, the second one came out first.
Right.
So Jacob did the same thing. Instead of blessing the eldest, he crossed his hands. And Joseph said, no, you got your hands on the wrong guy. And Jacob says, I know what I'm doing. And he made the younger in charge of the older. Okay. So once again, we see the younger son taking precedent, which was kind of weird. Good job, Gary.
On the map, it's just amazing that Joseph's son almost had as much land as the rest of the tribes.
Yeah, pretty big, right? Yeah, Ephraim not so much, but Manasseh, he's got a whole bunch of land.
Isn't it Ephraim?
Huh? Ephraim.
Like in Wisconsin,
Yeah,
Door
exactly.
County, there's an Ephraim.
Yep. What did I say?
Ephraim.
Oh, excuse me. My Chicago accent, right? Either we're in Ephraim. Okay, so that's 64. Okay, but in verse 10, they did not dislodge the Canaanites living in Gezer. To this day, the Canaanites live among the people of Ephraim, but are required to do forced labor. And this is exactly what Noah did back in Genesis. And there's a bunch of different ideas about what actually happened to Noah. Remember, Noah got drunk? And remember, and his son, what was his son's name?
He came in the tent and he didn't cover him up.
Right. Now, there's so many different theories about what actually happened in the tent. I was thinking about printing them out, but you guys do the research. Just Google commentaries about what happened to Noah.
Okay.
You'll see some really weird stuff. Anyway, Noah, his son Ham, saw Noah naked, and then that wasn't really the bad part. The bad part was that Ham went out and bragged about it to his two brothers. So Noah got mad, and here's what Noah said in Genesis chapter 9. After his son Ham saw Noah naked and told his other brothers Shem and Japheth about it, Shem and Japheth acted honorably and covered Noah. When Noah awoke from his wine and found out what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan. The lowest of the slaves, he will be to his brothers." So that's why the Canaanites had to do forced labor for the Israelites, because of Noah's curse.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
It was amazing that that was the last we heard of Noah in the Bible.
Yeah, he just kind of disappeared. Not a good way to go out. Not a good way to go out.
Bad wine.
Bad, well, or good wine. You know,
Isn't there a song, Bad, Bad Wine?
No, it's red, red wine.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Well, let's hear it. You can make
No,
it.
that's okay. I don't know words very well. Ask Jim.
La 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 la.
Yeah, I'm bad at words.
That's a very good Neil Diamond song. Okay.
Really? Neil Diamond?
But we digress. Well, he did that one too. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a reggae song, and he kind of did his own version. Yeah. Done by Bob Marley, right?
Might be. Sounds like something he would do.
Yep.
Is that Rastafarian, like?
Well,
Reggae or not?
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
a Rasta.
Right?
yeah.
Oh.
But they spent more time with ganja than they did red, red wine.
Hmm.
Ganja's marijuana.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Well, we
Keep going.
digress.
Come on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
okay,
Bad, bad wine.
reel me in. Okay, so,
Joshua 17.
yeah, chapter 17. Now, here's another story we heard before also. Chapter 17, verse 3. Now Zelophehad, son of Hepner, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, he had no sons but only daughters. Remember
That's
that?
right. Yeah.
Starting to get familiar? And those daughters' names were Mala, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. They went to Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the leaders and said, "The Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our relatives." So Joshua gave them an inheritance. So this is the story back in Numbers, where God realized that it's not right that these women shouldn't have any land. Now, the only stipulation was that they had to marry men from their same tribe.
Right.
Okay, that's the only stipulation. Because once God allocates the land to a tribe, it has to stay in that tribe. So that was the only stipulation. Okay.
Boy, you gotta watch your family.
Yeah, that's right. Verse 12, again, about the Canaanites doing forced labor. Yet the Manassites were not able to occupy these towns, for the Canaanites were determined to live in that region. And they subjected the Canaanites to forced labor because they did not drive them out completely. And once again, that's Noah's curse.
You'd often wonder if the Israelites would have wiped out everything there, they wouldn't have had as much trouble in the Middle East. Because all of the descendants have come back to haunt them.
That's a very good point, Gary. And I think it just goes to show that when we're not obedient to God, what happens? And the Israelites are normal people just like us. They sin like us, and hopefully we can, when we read the Bible, we can use them as an example and maybe be more obedient. Let's see, verse 14. The people of Joseph said to Joshua, here we go. "Why have you given us only one allotment and one portion for inheritance? We are a numerous people." So Joshua says, if you're so numerous, if you got so many people, just go up into the forest and clear the land for yourselves. So Joshua's saying, do some work, will you? Verse 17. But Joshua said to the tribes of Joseph, to Ephraim and Manasseh, "You are numerous and very powerful," because they're whining about the people, the Canaanites, who live in the plain, and they have their chariots filled with iron. Well, if they're living in the hill country, chariots aren't going to do any good up in the hill country because they're so heavy, and the horses can't go in the forest anyway. So verse 17, Joshua says to the tribes of Joseph, "Quit your whining." I think that's in the NLT version. "Quit your whining. You are numerous and very powerful. You will have only one allotment, but the forested hill country as well." So Joshua gave them extra land. They just have to work for it. "Clear it, and its farthest limits will be yours. Though the Canaanites have chariots fitted with honor, and though they are strong, you can drive them out." But they don't. In Judges chapter 1, verses 27 through 29, we're going to hear that since those tribes of Joseph, Manasseh and Ephraim, since they didn't have enough faith in God, they weren't able to get rid of the Canaanites. So we'll find out how disobedient they were when we get to Judges. Joshua 18, the division of the rest of the land. The whole assembly of the Israelites gathered at Shiloh and set up the tent of meeting there. So Shiloh became the second meeting place until they got to Jerusalem, and it stayed that way for quite a while. But even though it was the religious center of life, it never really became a true place of worship because the people there were very disobedient. God told his prophet Jeremiah that he would destroy the temple in Shiloh in Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 12. And here's what God said. Go now to the place in Shiloh where I first made a dwelling for my name, and see what I did to it because of the wickedness of my people Israel. While you were doing all these things, declares the Lord, I spoke to you again and again, but you didn't listen. I called you, but you didn't answer. Therefore, what I did to Shiloh, I will now do to the house that bears my name, the temple you trust in, the place I gave to you and your ancestors. I will thrust you from my presence, just as I did to all your fellow Israelites, the people of Ephraim. So that's why we have to take real good care of God's property, because it is God's, it's not ours. So there's only a little bit of land left that's got to be divided. So in verse 6, in this verses leading up to it, Joshua says, okay, go out and stake out the land, give me the measurements. And then in verse 6, after you have written descriptions of the 7 parts of the land, bring them here to me, and I will cast lots. Now, what do we know about casting lots from our earlier readings in the Old Testament?
The priest had 2 special colored stones.
Yep.
Upon them.
Oh.
That's right. And we have, to refresh you guys, we have 2 supplements. The Urim and Thummim, and then how did the Urim and Thummim function? So, as you guys read it, it describes how the high priest had his vest. Remember, the vest had 12 jewels on it?
Mm-hmm.
And the Urim and Thummim, they were under the vest. So what would happen is the high priest would stick his hands in there under the vest without looking, and then take the stone out, and then I guess he would throw them. And then whichever one came up heads, baby, that's what they would choose. And we're told in Proverbs 16:33, why the lots were cast. And Proverbs 16:33 tells us that the lot is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord. So that's the way they made decisions. They didn't talk about it, they didn't discuss it, they didn't vote on it, they just let God pick the stone. Okay. Allotment for Benjamin. So the first lot came up for the tribe of Benjamin. Now who's Benjamin? You guys remember?
The
He was Joseph's little brother.
Right, Joseph.
Last boy.
The last boy, Joseph's little brother, exactly. And he got the land between Judah and Joseph, kind of like the peacekeeper. Okay, northern slope. Okay, the tribe of Benjamin, according to its clans, had the following towns: Jericho, Beth Haglah, Emek Kazim, Beth Arab, blah blah blah, and then Avim. Now Avim is important because they were the pre-Philistine giants. Now, as we're going to hear in Judges, we're going to hear more about the Philistines, and those were big guys. Those were the leftover giants after Caleb got rid of the other giants. Nothing happens in chapter 19, except there's different words for Beersheba, or is it Sheba? It all depends. So nothing happens in 19 until we get to, that's not a big deal either, just different names for the towns.
Can I interrupt, Pastor?
Yes, sir. Yep.
In the first verse of 19, Simon, his territory was inside Judah. And I think he was one of the men that went out and him and his brother wiped out a group, had them circumcised and got them when they were, because they attacked their sister,
Yes, yes.
raped her. So they got their just come about.
They did. I'm trying to look at the map. Ah, yep. There's Simeon, Judah. Yeah, remember they really acted badly. The guy who raped the sister, he wanted to marry her, which would have been good for her, because she would then have a man to support her. And instead of doing that, they not only killed that guy, they killed all of his people. And the way they did it, they lied to him. They said, "Oh, you know what? Since your leader is going to marry our sister, we're going to circumcise you guys so you'll be just like us." But of course, while they're recovering from the circumcision, him and his brother attacked them, and of course they were defenseless because they were still recovering from the circumcision. So, nasty peoples. Good catch, Gary. Okay, nothing much happens in 19 except more allotment of land.
How many years did this take?
Let's take a look at our...
This is a long time to divide up this much land.
Yeah, let's see here.
And for them to move and...
So, if we look at our lifeline of Joshua... took quite a while because...
They fought for 7 years to begin with.
Yeah. He was 60 up until chapter 6, and then from 8, it's kind of hard to tell. So he might have been, well, we know he was 80 in chapter 12, so he might have been 90. Let's see if we can figure it out here.
While you're thinking, didn't a lot of the land depend upon the size of the tribe? The bigger the tribe, the bigger the area?
Yep, that's what we found out when...
So why would they cast lots if Moses had kind of said what they were going to